Okay, so I see all of these clips of people riding bridleless, and a lot of them are really good, and a lot of them, I can tell, are set up for 4 seconds of fame, and the people haven't gone through a process to really train the horse to ride bridleless. And I think everyone should work on riding bridleless because it really tells you the truth of, are you a control freak with your hands, or are you riding your horse with your whole body? But like many things in life, the end goal is not the point. It's the process. And it's the relationship that you have with your horse and the journey it takes to get there. And it's not something that you should just throw the bridle off and start riding. So it has been a while, maybe years, since I had ridden Weston bridleless before today. And this is the end result right here of, I think I worked with him about an hour. But this isn't where I started. I'm just showing you where I ended, and now I'll take you, kind of step by step through where I started for the day. But I also didn't teach him this in one day. This was relationship building over time and training over time. But the reason why I think everyone should try this is that, especially us English riders and dressage riders, we get so heavy in our hands and we tend to micromanage our horses in our hands. And we need to really step back and ask ourselves if we're riding with the rest of our body and communicating with the horse with the rest of our body and getting out of their mouth. So anyone who can sit a horse and has enough courage or stupidity can hop on a horse and take the bridle off. But I'm going to show you a little bit of how we can get the job done in a safe way and becoming a partner with the horse. So I started the day in the round pen. I'd turned Weston out, just let him roll, and then I came back in and decided to walk around and see if he had any interest of being with me today. And as usual, he likes being with me. He's one of those horses that likes to get out and do things. He would much rather be working on something interesting than standing around in a turnout or standing around in his stall. And he usually will leave food to come do something interesting. So he is a horse that likes to work naturally. So here I'm just checking to see, I've done all this groundwork with him. I mean, I've had him now a long time. I got him when he was 18 months old. And I just don't do a lot of this stuff anymore because it's done. But you can see he's like, But then he comes. And this is just a bunch of groundwork. But this is, the basis of your riding is what's your relationship with your horse. Because if it's not about a relationship, I don't know, it wouldn't be worth it to me. So I'm just kind of checking, is he with me? And he is. And that was enough. Okay, so step 1. Can you ride your horse in a bridle without micromanaging their face? So play a little game. It's a game we play with the kids. Can you ride your horse and steer and not use your reins? But to be safe, we stick our index finger out and we just hook the buckle of the reins over your index finger, and you hold them over the withers. And they're there if you need them, and they're passive if you don't need them. So here I'm just riding Weston around. I'm practicing my centered riding of following with my hips, which I always need to practice because my posture is sometimes not so hot. I'm looking where I want to go. I'm giving him pressure with my outside leg to turn. I'm sitting a little on my inside hip as I turn. Again, I have my index finger out with the buckle looped over it. If I need to, I can pick up those reins if he ignores me. And then I still my seat and he stops. I kind of tuck my pelvis under and give him a leg cue, and he backs up. And obviously this didn't just happen overnight either. This comes from when you warm up before you ride. Take some time and see if your horse will stop when you still your seat. And if they don't, pick up your reins and stop them. So here I put my hands on my hips. You gotta be really careful about the reins not falling over the neck. Weston's got conveniently large withers, but you'll see throughout this video that I do grab them and pull them back over his withers. So here I'm just practicing, can I make circles with my hands on my hips, not using the reins? Is he listening to me? If he wasn't listening to me, then I would pick up the rein and make him do it, and then I would ask again without the rein, and then pick up the rein and enforce it until he figured out what I wanted. And here I thought he's being lazy in the backup, so I picked up the reins. So now we're going to do the same thing in the trot. We are going to loop the buckle of the reins over our index finger and trot our horse around, trying to use our legs and seat and eyes, looking where we want to go to steer. And again, I'm starting with transitions. I started to trot, and then I wanted to make sure that I could come down from trot without using my reins. And so I think about half halting in my body, making my post a little slower, bringing my shoulders a little back. And that helps bring him back to walk. If he didn't come to walk, I would pick up my reins and reinforce that cue that I gave him in my body. And when we teach the very beginner riders to steer, we say we steer with our eyes, and then our belly button, and then our hands, because we need to look where we need to go, which naturally turns our torso. If we need to more, especially with what I've been doing here, you can exaggerate the turning of the torso by really thinking about pointing your belly button where you want to go. And then if we need to, then we engage the hands to direct the horse. So here I'm just testing. Can I go forward? Can I go back? Can I go on the path I want without doing anything but just keeping the reins over the withers, over the neck? And in trot, I wasn't very excited about the idea of letting go of the reins completely because they might flop over. Canter is the hardest gait for Weston and I. He's big, he's unbalanced in canter, and especially to the right, when he warms up, he's almost a four-beated canter, which this was our first canter of the day, and it was pretty rough. But this was more an exercise for me than for him. This was me working on, can I sit and not micromanage my horse in canter, not insist on fixing his canter? Can I just sit the canter he gives me and let him be responsible for carrying his body. And so then I transitioned down without using the reins and transitioned back up again without using the reins. And you can see I keep going further and further off camera here because he's drifting out a little bit in canter, not listening to my outside leg quite as much. And smaller circles in canter are harder on this big horse, especially when he's not warmed up. So I did canter both directions, but I'm not going to bore you with showing the entire video because it's getting too long. Okay, so I stopped and I put a neck strap on Weston. I still have the bridle on. I just put a stirrup leather around his neck. So now the reins are looped over his withers. And I'm putting my hands on my hips, checking to see if I still have control at walk, halt, back up without picking up my reins. And then I am trotting, no reins, just rechecking everything. And then if I need to grab at this point and do something and make a correction, I'm going to grab my neck strap, which I think I do right here. Yeah, I'd been asking him to stop, and he didn't. So I grabbed that neck strap and I gave it a pretty good shove backwards, like, hello, do you not feel my seat? Feel me asking you to stop that whole time. So I didn't pick up on the reins. If something crazy happened, the reins were there, but I didn't need to pick them up in that instant. So at this point, I figured he was listening to me really well, and the time had come to take off the bridle. So now we just have a neck strap, so go back to basics. Can I walk without touching the neck strap? Can I turn without touching the neck strap? And then can I halt and back up without touching the neck strap? You see there, he was a little bit tuned out, thought he was going to keep turning right, and I kind of had to be like, hello, we're turning left. And he goes, oh, here we go. Because when we're so used to riding in our hand and the horse is so used to us micromanaging them, they tune out. Taking the bridle off gives them a lot more responsibility to pay attention. And Weston was really amped up after this. He's been fired up. And I think it's because, you know, it's interesting to him and it made him proud and he was paying attention and it was something different and it felt empowering to him as well. And just keep in mind while you're playing with this and aiming to take that bridle off that each step may be a multiple day process. It may be, depending on how much you ride, you know, a multiple month process. But you can work on this and keep your bridle on the whole time so that if something goes wrong, you have that safety net there. You know, I'm in a big round pen here. I could have started in the little round pen, but it was a fairly controlled environment. And then someone came up and needed information about bringing their horse to the stables to board, so they're talking to me right there, and this is the end, and so I didn't have to canter. So I owe you guys a cantering bridleless video next.